Hello, Battletech fans. Welcome back to another Battletech Heavy Metal update. This will be update number 3, and this update is going to discuss mod support and some other tidbits here and there, and then uh, my little rant at the end of this. Just some talking points that I have. But let's go over some really good things. Unfortunately, the guy that was helping out the mod support wasn't able to come, unfortunately, but he did leave us a nice little letter to be spoken through Ryan, the lead designer of Heavy Metal. So let's get into that. So there's some key things that I'm just going to go talk through. So there's going to be no mod creation aids. It's a little upsetting on that side of things. I was kind of hoping to maybe see like a map editor or, here's how we edit weapons and, here's a tool that we use. Unfortunately, they still try to help out the modders, but there's no like official like software that they're giving the mods. Unfortunately, something that I was kind of hoping for, something along the lines of how Mech Commander was and how we can make our own missions and design things that way. Hopefully it'd be a little bit more clear. Since the guy cannot make it, if you have questions, go to the Paradox forums and ask your questions about mod support in the forums there if they weren't answered here or during the stream. They'll answer them on the forums for you. I have a feeling that there's going to be some kind of way that they're helping out people. Hey, this is how you want to design this mission or whatever. They're going to help people out in that sense. And HBS has been really awesome with that. So it's really cool. This is actually really good news on all fronts, actually, with the mod news. So with all the mods, like all the mod support is going to be work on all platforms. So I'm assuming, I guess that's on all Windows or Linux, whatever. I'm assuming that's what they meant on that. So that's cool. So here's some really cool talking points here. So automatically load mods outside of Battletech. So what that is they're going to have mods stored away outside of Battletech, which means if your Steam updates Battletech in any way, shape, or form, it's not going to affect your files, which is awesome. That is a really cool ad, and apparently it was a pain in the ass for them to get it to work, but they did it. So kudos to the HPS team. Huge. That's a big win from them. And then they also have an in-game mod manager, which is going to turn on and off. So that's even cool. So like, hey, I want to use this mod or I don't want to use that mod. They have that in-game now. That's really cool. So that's another win there. Battletech save games will now have mod awareness. So it identifies which mod is used for what file. So that's huge. So you just go into your file and just load it. It'll just load up the files that it needs. So that's really cool. That's a really awesome feature, and good job for HBS. And that was pretty much it as far as mod support. If you have any more questions, again, just go to the Paradox forums and ask them. There wasn't anything else added with the mod support that I could tell that was very clear. But what was clear to me was HBS is supporting the modders. They love you guys. They truly do. They're reaching out to you guys. They're helping you. I honestly can say this. I have not seen a company do what they do in any sense and helping the modders do what they do. Like they're taking that extra step. And I honestly, HBS did a really good job on that. So a big win on HBS's end. And for you modders, I think this is all good news. This is great news. But aside of that, that's all they really talked about for the mod support. That was pretty much it. And again, obviously the guy wasn't there to answer the questions that were more, geared toward him. But again, they are opening up the forums for any questions regarding mods. But from what they talked about, it looks really good. It looks really, really good. And this is going to come with the 1.8 patch. So you don't even have to have heavy metal. You just have to have the 1.8 patch downloaded. So good stuff. So we're going to start going into other things that they did mention in the stream. They talked about which variants are going to be added to the game. So they talked about the Flea having two variants, the 15 and the 4. I'm not sure which one we discussed in my talk of the Flea. I wasn't really sure, so I'm just going to list what both of them are. The Flea 15 has 2 medium lasers and 2 small lasers, while the Flea 4 has 1 large laser and 2 small. So I'm kind of leading towards the 4 in my opinion. I personally like the large laser. I don't know. I'm a big fan of that. Light mechs and heavy hits. Then the Assassin. So the Assassin 21 and the Assassin 101. So those are going to be the 2 variants for that. I already discussed the 21 in my talk about. The 101 version has less armor, more jump jets, and has more support hard points. So kind of like a glass cannon in a sense. Get up close and personal. That's what the Assassin 101 is going to do. This is the interesting one, though, the Vulcan. So I talked about the Vulcan 2T already, but the 5T was not discussed. So the 5T version replaces the autocannon 2 with 3 medium lasers and adds more armor. That's really good. That's really good for a 40-tonner. So this might be another viable 40-ton mech. So a Vulcan 5T might be something that players might actually try to play. Awesome. Other than the Assassin, of course. Then the Phoenix Hawk, the 1 and the 1K. The 1K is one I haven't mentioned, and the 1K has no jump jets. Now, there's no confirmation on this, but the variant on Sarna basically says the 1K has no jump jets, but adds more armor and replaces the machine guns with a small laser. So now they said that the Phoenix Hawk has pretty much fixed jump jets on it because that's its quirk. It has some kind of directional jump jet or something that's on the Phoenix Hawk. So I don't know if the 1K just doesn't have that. I would assume they kind of follow the lore in that sense, that the 1K just doesn't have jump jets. So it'd be interesting to see. So the Rifleman 3C and 3N. The 3N is just the regular the regular variant with the autocannon 5s on it. But the 3C has 2 autocannon 10s on it. And that's all it has and more armor. So interesting variant to say the least. And then the Archer 2R and Archer 2S. And the 2S is basically what I'm going to start leaning towards. That might be the mech that I might try to play. It depends on 1 or 2 things. Now, the 2S comes with 2 LRM-15s and 2 SRM-4s. Now, I want a brawling mech. Then the 2R has, I think, 2 LRM-20s and a few medium lasers. I would like to have some laser hardpoints with the 2S. I'm just not 100% sure if it does or not. I'm going to lean on the side of it doesn't for right now, but we'll see. And the Warhammer 6R and the 6D. Now, the 6D has more armor because it removes the machine guns and SRM that the 6R has. So that's the only difference. So the 6D just has more armor with no machine guns or SRMs. And I thought there was supposed to be another Marauder variant, but Ryan only mentioned that there's only going to be a Marauder 3R variant. I feel like there may have been a typo with that. I feel like there should be another Marauder variant, but we'll just say that's the only one for now. The Annihilator 1A, and apparently it's supposed to be 2 versions of the Bull Shark. So the one version you're going to get in the Flashpoint, and that has the Thumper Cannon, and the other one you can find out in the wild in the career mode after you finish the Flashpoint with the Bull Shark in it. And that one does not have the Thumper Cannon on it. So very cool. So yeah, very interesting to see new variants be added. Now again, there's more variants for the Spider and Locust as well to load the coil weapons on those mechs. So those are the other two variants I didn't mention, but those are also being added into the game so they can have the coil weapon. Speaking of coil weapons, so the coil weapons will have no plus versions. So I'm not sure if I talked about that, but they did mention this in the stream. So it is confirmed that there's gonna be no like plus versions for it. So there's like no plus to hit or plus damage or whatever else to it. So yeah, they're probably just too overpowered as it is. Another interesting note. I really like this. There's been a pilot skill change. Now, the pilot skill change is very interesting. And I'm kind of looking forward to this. But the pilot skill change that they mentioned is there's going to be an innate hit defense added to your pilots as you get more skills. I don't know if I was saying that correctly, but as you gain more piloting skill, there's an innate hit defense added to your pilot. So you have a +1 defense to hit, which is good. I don't know where that's going to fall or if it's only at the maximum level. That's where I'm going to assume right now is maximum level at 10. That's when you get that extra hit defense in piloting. That's really cool. I like that. That makes piloting a little bit better, and it makes your pilots worth more. I really do like that. Also, there will be no heavy metal weapons in skirmish. So whatever weapons are being added, they will not be in skirmish mode. So I'm going to take this with a grain of salt and say that it's not going to be in multiplayer as well. So, yeah, I'm just going to say it's not in multiplayer as well. If it's not in skirmish, it's probably not going to be in multiplayer. Also, good news, they're going to add 40 new emblems. So fun stuff to add. Apparently, they said that there's going to be certain factions that you come across, and you can actually have those emblems as well. So, like say the Wolf Dragoons, maybe the Wolf Dragoons will have the logo added into your data. So that will be cool to have. Let's see here. What else? Looking through my notes here. Apparently there's going to be multiple dev diaries coming up. One from Ryan, the lead designer himself, and from 2 others as well. So that should be fun. I tend to read them from time to time, get into their minds and kind of get a feeling of what they're thinking and what they're going through. It's kind of cool. They also have a stream dated for the release. So there will be a release date stream. So on the 21st, they'll have a celebratory stream for the heavy metal release. So look forward to that. So on to more important stuff, actually. They talked about the mini campaign and how that's going to play out. So they talked about how it's going to activate in a sense. So they talked about like it'll start through the beginning of your new career mode, and in that sense, like how does the next mission trigger? So it will be triggered by an event. So something has to happen in between, a couple of battles or 2 outside of the flashpoint, and an event will pop up, and then something happens, and apparently that's when you go into the next flashpoint. Something to that degree. That's how it's supposed to work. They also talked about um, the Black Widow as well. They kind of talked about her at length, and that she was a Kickstarter promise, and she's kind of like the anti-hero, and they added the bounty hunter to kind of play in that role of making a choice at the end of the campaign, of the Flashpoint mini campaign. Whether you side on the bounty hunter or you side on the Black Widow, and maybe you get certain rewards based on that decision. I'm assuming that's how that's going to go. And they also talked about you'll get to understand why the new weapons are being added in the flashpoints. From the story guy, the guy was basically explaining that they kind of discuss how these weapons are being added through the Flashpoint mini campaign. So they kind of like reveal that as you go through that campaign. And it will kind of clear things up, I guess. So I'm kind of curious in how they're going to do that, because quite frankly you're stretching a lot of fabric here. You know what I mean? Like you're pushing the boundaries a little bit with some of these introductions, like some of the ultra autocannons, to say the least. So that'll be interesting to talk about. And there was a comment on will we see the Seabill camo on the Bounty Hunter's mech? Apparently Ryan said that there could be something like that in there, but there's nothing confirmed. So kind of confirmed. There will be a special kind of camo for him. So that's kind of interesting. Yes, and obviously it's been confirmed that the Bull Shark will be available after that flashpoint. So after that flashpoint is available for you play that mission that has the Bull Shark in it, that's probably when it unlocks. So then you'll start seeing it in other missions. And after that, that's pretty much it. They kind of joked about Darius intel. Apparently it's a bug. So when we get that, there's turrets still up and running when we destroyed all the turrets, apparently that's actually a bug. And it's kind of like an inside joke, I guess. And I guess they kind of left it there. I don't know if they're going to work on it or fix it, but I think that it's been in the game since its inception, so I feel like they're just going to leave it as an ongoing joke. So Darius's intel was supposed to be good, but it's not necessarily isn't anymore. So kind of taking that back a little bit, because I know they have a lot of tutorials for new players that they're going to add into the new to the campaign. So maybe they might tweak that a little bit. Maybe. I kind of doubt it. Just leave it in there. I had a fun time with it. I joke around. We all joke around about Darius. So that was pretty much it for the most part, for all the good stuff. And it was majority. It was a pretty good stream. I know Mitch wasn't there. I know he was out on vacation, so I'm sure he's having a good time. But in my opinion, the stream went a lot smoother, and it was a lot more clear and concise versus when he's there. I love the guy. He's a great guy. He's bringing a lot of good to the community, of course. But it just seems like it just was more structured, obviously. Take it for what it is. But I'm going to start going off on my own little rants here. Now, they talked about the coil weapons again. And they talked about, the balance of it, I guess. And the balance of it is pretty much, it's a skill-based weapon. And in order to use it effectively, you have to have these skills and the knowledge in order to use this weapon. Well, I'm sorry to say this, but it's a pretty straightforward and easy to use weapon, and the strategy behind it. Obviously, advanced players are going to use it in a more advanced way, maybe more efficiently. But if I was a new player, like if I were to clear the slate in my brain and say, I'm going into Battletech, I'm going to start playing this game, I know how to abuse this weapon already. Now, I played Shadowrun and all those other games that that they've released in the past. And I kind of know their system and how they play and everything. But here's my point. It's not as advanced as they think it is. And I think they kind of just made it sound that way. Like only advanced players can use it, right? Make it something special. And I personally, I don't think it's anything special other than the fact that you move a certain amount of spaces and you get behind the enemy and you pretty much can one-shot the enemy. That's basically it. That is the idea behind these weapons. I'm like, what? No, light mechs are viable in the late game. It's just that people don't want to play that double turn mechanic game. It's been done. It's been proven to work. But you can't simply just add in this weapon because you won't add in another lance, right? Because that was the discussion. It's the truth. That was the discussion behind this was the only way light mechs become viable is we get that secondary lance, right? It's the only way we get the secondary lance, and we would use that. We would use light mechs more. Now I'm gonna go to Rogue Tech, because Rogue Tech attempted on this, and they were very successful. Though they had some bumps in the road, they were successful. They allowed the player the ability to deploy multiple lances at a cost. Now they've added a cost to the Argo to upgrade it so you can deploy more mechs. But going through a player's progression, so from the early game to mid game, they still used the light mechs. They still had light mechs to drop. But once they started getting to the mid and late game, that's when they started transitioning away from light mechs and keeping mediums and then going into heavies and so on and so forth. And this kind of brings up the other point that I'm going to rant about as well, is this power curve. Right? And during the stream, Ryan basically said bigger is better, obviously. Well, he's right. That's the design of the game that they made. That's the design of Battletech. Obviously, you want the bigger, more badass mechs to go in and just destroy, right? Doesn't mean that, this Locust can't get it done. Chances being slim, right? Hell, there's a challenge to get an achievement, it's an Atlas and Commando. You have to kill the Atlas with a Commando, right? 1-on-1. I did that. It's doable. But again, is it viable in the late game? No, light mechs are not really viable in the late game. I just feel like, it just seemed like Ryan was tasked with this challenge of like, okay, I can't add another lance. They won't let me do this. I guess I have to make light mechs viable. How do I do that? And this whole thing, I think this whole mechanic with reputation and some other things that were added in the game were to make light mechs viable. It's an insane concept. It's just like, the truth behind it, and he knows the truth, that bigger is better. He's very blunt. He's very blunt with it. He's very blunt. He's like, hey, bigger is better here. So they know what they're tasked with, but they're avoiding that issue. They're just not, and that's fine. Okay. You know, they should be very blunt with it as well. It's like, we're not doing the second lance. We're not doing it. Not in this game. Right? And we'll talk about the next game in a little bit here. But the coil weapon being skill-based? No, it's not. As long as you have a general understanding of the mechanics, now you might not get it right away, but by the time you finish the campaign and you get into the career mode and you start doing the flashpoints, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how to play the game. So I think you have some semblance of, hey, how does this weapon operate? So I don't think it's going to be very skill based. I think it's just how much can I abuse it is the real question. And then the other thing that I'm really disappointed in is the snub PPC. And that's one thing I really didn't talk about during the last update was the snub PPC. It's absolute garbage. This thing generates too much heat. Right? And in the scatter shot thing, I thought you wanted unique weapons. This looks like an LBX to me, right? Except it shoots energy, right? It's like a energy shotgun now. From what I understand, snub PPC is just fired projectiles the same way a normal PPC does, but at shorter distance, right? And the snub PPC creates too much heat. It just creates way too much heat to make it anywhere viable. Like during the stream, this Warhammer had 2 snubs on it, and the thing like was already overheating. And granted, the pilot wasn't great either. But here's the thing: like the heat in itself was just way too much for two snubs. It was like beyond the normal PPCs almost, or that on par of it, if I can remember correctly. It's just not a good weapon. Not really happy about that. And the other thing that unfortunately was asked and then answered by them. I was kind of hesitant to ask them, but someone already did. So are there any AI improvements? And Ryan, the lead designer, stumbled badly. He stumbled on that answer very bad. And his buddy next to him kind of bailed him out of it. But he stumbled on it, and he basically said, no. The AI will not keep up with the player. And this goes back to the power curve. Speaking of it, the power curve for the player now, like even if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, right, and you kind of know what you're doing, and you go and buy, like, obviously you're going to have no rare weapons salvage, right, on the ground. So when you go to the shops, you buy the rare weapons anyways. And you know what you're looking for. The power curve is still going to be it's going to go up so high that the AI, you can fight those insane odds. Again, avoiding the lance issue. Right? Avoiding the secondary lance issue. And this is what they've been doing this entire time. Because obviously, you can't always fight 4-on-4. It's kind of boring, right? And so they're like, okay, we'll have reinforcements come in. And those reinforcements can be, sometimes 3 mechs, sometimes 4, maybe even 7. Now they're going to have like 8 or 10 mechs come in now. And you're so outnumbered. And because you have such insane weaponry, you should kill these things off in no time. that is the biggest problem with this. It's like, I don't want these gigantic weapons or these awesome weapons of these death rays, I guess you would want to call them death rays, to blow up my opponent. Yeah, it's cool once in a while. It's a gimmick. But, I don't expect fairness. Hell, this is freaking war. Hell, if I have 5 other mechs in the mech bay, or 4 other mechs in the mech bay, hey, drop them down. I'll pay the fee to drop them down in drop pods. You introduced that in urban warfare. Have me drop it down. Hell, even the AI can control my mechs, my variants. I'm pretty sure the computer can think of computing my variants being landed on the actual surface, right, in the mission. So, there's my mech with plus 10 damage medium lasers on it, right? And the AI has control of it. And maybe I have a little bit more control of telling it to hold or to defend or to attack or whatever. Anyways, I feel like they had a real opportunity here and they just didn't want to take it. And they just skirted around the idea the entire time. And again, I'll come back to this in a minute. But it's just one of those things that I can't get over it. It's hard to just, when you don't, I know a lot of options are a bad thing, but to kind of not allow players to have that option in the vanilla, or at the very least, hey, you can go buy another leopard. It might take you a while to accrue the money to buy the other freaking leopard, but heck, you have the option to do that. Same thing with the reputation system, right? The reputation system is absolute garbage. Just absolute garbage. And there's been a whole lot of mods out there that fix it. Well, I'm sorry, but I like to play the vanilla game, and I personally think you guys should fix it. Now, I play very carefully. I'm playing, I have a playthrough right now, currently on YouTube, that I've been going through, and I've been very careful not to piss off the pirates too much. But that's even hard. That's extremely tough. That's extremely tough to do. And you got to play it in the late game. And even then, you go to a different planet and it lists off different factions. Let's say there's three factions. And you get pretty much one faction to play with. And hope the heck that you have good alignment with that faction. That's how bad the reputation and the mission system is. It's really that bad. They really need to rework that, and I hope they do it in the next patch. Again, excuse me. And again, I hope that they do something in the future. At least in that sense. And again, I don't mind modding it out, and I might end up doing that after these next couple playthroughs that I'll do. And just be like, I'm just sick and tired of dealing with it. I don't want to deal with these poor, you only get 5 to 6 missions. And you better hope that there's one in there that you could do. And that one mission that you can do is not against the pirates, or someone that's, close to hating you. And then that'll affect you in later missions. It's not good. And it was another way, it was another introduction, it was another challenge that was put in place on that designer. I don't know when that was released. I don't know if it was Flashpoint or Urban Warfare, but whoever was those designers in those two were challenged to be like, hey, we have to make light mechs viable. So what do? They skimped on the missions. Again, this is me just reaching here, okay? They skimped on the missions, so you can go and go back to a low-end planet so you can play with your light mechs if you choose to do that. That's if you choose to do that, which obviously, why would you? Because now you have these powerful machines to play with now in the one skull missions. And like, oh, well, this makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. They tried that didn't work. And they left it in the game. So that's kind of how I feel right now. It's just the reputation is borked. The reputation system is absolutely borked. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think that's the biggest fix. That's the biggest complaint for me, aside from AI not having, good weaponry, some lost tech. Every once in a while, you should see it. It's rare, but your enemy should have some lost tech weapons, even on the base models, right? If I see like a base Thunderbolt 5S, I expect maybe an LRM 5, an LRM 10 plus or whatever on it. Just to change some things up, But, I digress. Or at least have an option in the difficulty to be like, your enemy can have lost tech weapons. Check mark it. Something simple, right? So it's that and the reputation system. Those are my two biggest gripes that I've had with HPS this entire time with Battletech. So those are my two big ones, is the reputation and the AI not having good weapons outside of flashpoints. So those are my only two gripes. And one last gripe that I have was during their gameplay footage, during that stream, the Marauder was unstable and it looked like it was like flopping around. It just didn't look right. Again, the animations just don't settle well with me right now. And then the knockdown animation seemed really wonky. It didn't look too good. But again, like, this isn't the final product, obviously. I hope it isn't. But it just didn't look too good. Not a big fan of that, but, something to look over and I'll probably just, I won't be annoyed at it anymore. That sort of thing. Once I see it 100 times, I probably won't care. And there's one other thing. I tried asking, but they were running out of time. But I asked them if the loading times were improved. And the reason why I asked is when they quit out of a mission, they were automatically, almost instantaneously, out of that mission. And it seemed like the screen was kind of fading in and fading out. So they had like kind of like a fade kind of thing going on with that. So there may be some improvements with loading. So there may be some performance increases. So that is a good thing. So yeah, so that's been this little update for you guys. I hoped you enjoyed this. I can't wait to play heavy metal again. I know I ranted and raved a little bit, and again, this is nothing against HPS. I am all about the constructive criticism. I like to deliver that. I like to, hopefully reach out to them. That is my main thing here. And, and in talking about future projects, and this, if I were to rant about something else, I think this is something that Paradox has put in place. Like, they're like, don't talk about things. Because HPS is kind of like very kind of clear cut. They're kind of open about their ideas as they were before, but they seem kind of closed now because Paradox is kind of in the background. They can't talk about special projects for the future or anything like that. And I understand it's a business and that's how they want to run it. But talking about Battletech 2 and talking about some of the stuff that I ranted about, the land sizes and those sorts of things and AI improvements, I think because of also the mods that have been out, especially Rogue Tech, it's putting a lot of pressure on HPS, and as it should. It should. The community has, you know, has obviously, went towards the road tech direction. They're like, these guys know what they're doing. They tried. They put their best foot forward and said, hey, we'll give this a shot. Well, HBS is working on future endeavors. Now, my only hope is that they learn that this is what the community wants. We have to give them those certain features. Like, that's something that we need to focus on, especially when we're introducing the clans. And let's say from a story perspective, you are part of a clan or you're part of the invasion force or whatever. Maybe that's something that's going to happen. But you need to have other mechs, more mechs on the screen. And clearly, yes, it does slow the game down, but it didn't seem to bother people. It doesn't seem to bother a lot of people. At first it did, but then it doesn't. And the other thing is too, like, I'm playing a vanilla playthrough, and I'm going to do that when Heavy Metal is released. More people flood to Rogue Tech, watch more Rogue Tech videos or modded Battletech than vanilla videos. I find that more of a thing. And obviously, I'm not out there to get views or whatever, but I like people to view my content. But people know what they want. They want Rogue Tech. They want the clans. They want all this fun stuff and features that they've been asking for in the game. So it's like a call to action to HBS. And I think they have a lot on their plate. And I know they're working hard. They've brought this incredible product, Battletech, to our doors. They know what they're doing. They're trying their very best. They're working really hard. They made a great community, and they're expanding on that. And they're embracing the modders. Like I said, I don't have any doubt that, or there's very little doubt that HBS is going to do very well. Coming out with Battletech 2 or whatever future project they have in mind, I am looking forward to Battletech 2. From what I've seen here, they've learned a lot. They've definitely learned and grown. And I think they understand what they need to do. And obviously, Paradox might restrict some things. I'm sure they will, but time will only tell. So that's going to be it for my update number 3 to Battletech Heavy Metal. Look forward to more playthroughs of my current vanilla playthrough of career mode to Heavy Metal, which has been a lot of fun. But I will be stopping that once Battletech Heavy Metal comes out, and then I'll start new playthroughs that are going to be coming out Friday. So there's going to be the hardest difficulty playthrough, and also a normal vanilla playthrough with a little bit of a twist. So that one's going to be a lot of fun too. And I'm going to have a third kind of playthrough that I haven't really discussed yet, but it's going to be really, really challenging. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it just as much as I'm going to enjoy it. And that will be released on the following week after the Heavy Metal release. So that'll be on a Tuesday, I believe. So some things to look forward to. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, hit that rating, and let me know in the comments what you think of the video. And I will see you guys next time.